What if I told you that the key to fighting things like heart disease, Alzheimer's, and even some types of infertility wasn't a dozen different solutions, but actually just one? Today, we're going to dive into a hidden epidemic that might just be the single root cause of our biggest health problems. We're talking about insulin resistance.
Okay, let's just jump right in with a number that should really grab your attention.
A staggering 88%. Yeah, you heard that right. That's how many adults in the US have some level of this metabolic issue. And let's be clear, this isn't some rare fringe condition. It is one of the most common health problems on the entire planet. But here's where the story gets really compelling. What if a lot of the chronic diseases that we're all so scared of aren't actually separate problems at all? I love how metabolic scientist Dr. Benjamin Bikman puts it. He says, much of chronic disease, it's as if they're branches growing from the same tree. And that just perfectly illustrates this core idea, that so many different disorders might actually be sprouting from the very same origin. So what kind of branches are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about the big ones: heart disease, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, and even really common forms of infertility like PCOS and erectile dysfunction. Heck, scientists are now calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. They're calling it insulin resistance of the brain. On the surface, they all look so different, but when you trace them back, they all connect to that one single metabolic trunk. Okay, so how on earth does this actually happen inside our bodies? Let's break it down. First things first, we gotta understand insulin itself. It's a hormone, your pancreas makes it, and its main job is to manage your blood sugar. You can think of it like an energy manager or a taxi driver for sugar, but for our purposes, let's think of it as a bouncer at a nightclub door, deciding who gets in. This bouncer analogy makes a really complicated process super simple. So you eat some carbs and your blood sugar goes up. That's the signal, right? Your body releases insulin, the bouncer, to get to work. The bouncer goes to a muscle cell and knocks on the door, saying, hey, let this sugar in, we need energy. But with insulin resistance, the cell basically becomes deaf to the knock. It starts resisting. So what does the body do? It panics and sends an angry mob of bouncers, way more insulin, to try and force that door open. And this is so important to get. Insulin resistance is actually two problems happening at the exact same time. It's like a two-headed monster. On one side, you have problem one: insulin isn't working right. The cells are resistant, they're deaf, so sugar can't get in easily. But then you have problem two: insulin is too high, because to make up for that resistance, the body is just pumping out more and more of it. And having chronically high insulin, all those bouncers shouting all the time, causes its own massive set of problems all over the body. Okay, so this naturally leads us to a huge, and I mean huge, question that we've all been asking for decades. For so long, we've been taught to focus on just one thing, right? Calories. But what if the real answer is something completely different? Now, get this. This is a powerful idea. It's not just about the calories you eat, it's about the hormone insulin. In fact, you literally can't get fat without the signal from insulin telling your fat cells to store energy. It doesn't matter how many calories you eat. Without that hormonal signal, it's not happening. And you can see this in action just by looking at what you eat. A high-carb meal, think a bagel, cereal, pasta. It causes this massive spike in insulin. That's a huge hormonal yell to your body to store energy. But a meal that's high in protein and fat, like steak and eggs, it has a much smaller effect on insulin. The hormonal instruction your body receives is completely different. So why do fat cells start resisting in the first place? Well, it's actually a defense mechanism. The source material uses this great analogy. It says a fat cell getting full is like a water balloon that a naughty little boy has overfilled and it's about to burst. The cell is basically screaming, no more. To protect itself from popping, it starts ignoring insulin's command to keep storing more fat. It becomes resistant to literally save itself. All right, so if having constantly high insulin is the problem, then the solution has to be about getting it under control. And thankfully, there's a simple framework we can use to think about doing exactly that. This framework gives us a really clear path forward. Pillar 1, control your carbohydrates. And that means focusing on whole foods, not the processed stuff that comes in bags and boxes. Pillar 2, prioritize protein. Make sure you're getting all those essential building blocks your body absolutely needs. Pillar 3, don't fear fat. Healthy fats are not the enemy, they're essential, and they help keep you full. And finally, once you've got those first 3 pillars locked in, you can consider pillar 4, fasting frequently, to give your insulin levels a much-needed break every now and then. So really, the main takeaway from all of this is a fundamental shift in how we think about health. To reverse insulin resistance, to reclaim your health, the goal isn't just about eating less. It's about eating differently. It's about changing what you eat to lower that hormonal signal of insulin. When you manage the hormone, you let your body finally heal and start using its own stored energy. And that just leaves us with a final thought. Understanding this whole process gives you control. It takes the power back. It changes the game from a constant battle of willpower against hunger to a smart strategy of hormonal management. So the question is, what's one small change you can make, maybe even starting today, to take back that control?